This meeting is now being recorded.
All right, I'd like to welcome everyone to our first webinar of 2015. I hope you all had a very happy holiday season. This is Jolene Bracey. I am the Membership and Programs Manager for the National Scholarship Providers Association, and I'm so glad you've all joined us today. Excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm fighting a really terrible cold. Today's webinar is on improving work-life balance. We are graciously hosted today by McCorry, who is the CEO of Efficiency Incorporated, which is a national productivity and efficiency business. Some of you are familiar with KJ. She worked with us at the annual conference and presented at the pre-conference seminar. She is also the author of Organize Your Workday in No Time, which is published by Q Pearson Education. And this book is one of the recommended books for certification in the professional organizing industry. KJ is a nationally recognized expert with a specialty in electronic organization and utilizing applications for improved productivity. She's appeared in the New York Times, the International Herald Tribune, the Chicago Tribune, Real Simple, CNN Money, Better Homes and Gardens, and has also been a regular on television and radio. This is the first in a series of 3 webinars for us. You'll all notice that we do have a new webinar platform. Everyone is muted for the majority of the presentation, but we will open it up to verbal questions at the end. If you have questions, you'll see at the top of the bar, kind of just to the right of center, there is a Q&A box. If you click on that box, we will be monitoring questions from our end and help KJ with those. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to you, KJ. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jolene, and welcome, everyone. Happy New Year, and so glad to be starting with this topic because I think it's an important one. Before we get going, just a couple of the housekeeping things. You should have received an email with a copy of the handouts. And the handouts was a PDF that will have the copy of the slide, and there'll be some information on the bottom of that. If you don't have that, you can also get it if you click at the very top. You can click on what's called the file library, which you see up here, and then you'll see a second PDF called handouts. You can also download it from there if you don't have it. Next, we have the chat function. I know a lot of you have been on webinars before, but as we're going along, if you have a question or comment, feel free to use that chat. If we can, I'd love everybody just to kind of practice. Go to the very bottom, because I know this is a new system. Go to the very bottom of that chat. You'll see a square box. It's kind of an empty field. If you will just chat in where you are calling from, that would be great. I will throw in myself, Boulder, Colorado, and just get everybody in there. Terrific. We got people from all over. Wonderful. You guys are following directions very well, I might add. Okay, terrific. So as we're going along, if you have a question for me or a comment of what I just said or something to add to that, feel free to use that chat in. I always find that's nice to have, and I'll be monitoring that as we go along. I'm also going to leave some time at the end for some questions. So if you want a verbal question, we'll unmute you at the end of that time. And we can do some verbal back and forth as well. As Jolene said, we're going to be recording this, so it's just an FYI for you that we're going to be recording it so that you can go back and listen to it if there's things that you have, and obviously other NSPA members can hear it as well. So with that, let's get going. So improving work-life balance. It's a tough one, isn't it? So let's start here first. What is work-life balance? If you had to define it, how would you define it? If I said to you, hey, Chris, what is work-life balance? How would you respond? I want you to chat in your answer. What's the first thing that comes to mind? What is work-life balance? How would you define it? What does it mean to you? Just chat in your answer right there. Diane, thank you. Enough time for family, yeah. Caitlin, good, balancing personal and work life. Yeah. Good, Melissa, thank you. Feeling complete in all aspects of life. Good, Courtney, thank you. Doing well at home and at the office, yeah. Faith, knowing when to end work day and focus, yeah, knowing when to end, that's the key word, right? Knowing where to end. Chris, time to complete work and unwind as well. That unwind, yeah, that feeling. Good, Laura, some good ones here. Managing home and work without feeling overwhelmed. Carrie, setting priorities. Marianne, living with the ability to work and what? Yeah, good. Helen, satisfaction with how I spend my time. I like that one, finding satisfaction in both. Good. So lots of commonalities in there, but everybody just a little different. And here's the first thing. You have to define work-life balance. Gone is the day where there's a definition to define it for you. It all looks different to all of us. Meaning, you know, some of you want to work on weekends because that helps you, that keeps you focused. Does it mean you can't have work-life balance if you work on the weekends? No, it does not. Does it mean you can't have work-life balance if you maybe come in earlier, stay later? No. Work-life balance means whatever it wants to mean to you. And that's what we want to talk about today is what does it mean to you? What does it look like? And so in this technology world where we have the ability to work anywhere and any time, it can look different for everyone, depending on who you are, what your job is, what your responsibilities are. I know a lot of you travel, you got to go to conferences, you got to do things. And so this is where starting to define it for you is going to help you move forward in what it looks like and how you want to attain it. And that's really what we want to talk about today. The reality is, in our American culture, based on the studies that are coming out, we as Americans, it's that sturdy, value-based, we work hard. And if you work hard, you're valued in America. And what the studies are telling me is we all work over 40 hours a week now in the technology age because everybody's checking email. On average, just a normal, average, ordinary worker works between 45 and 50 hours a week. Most people work over 5 hours on a weekend. And so some of this is driven by you and some of it's driven by our culture. And not to say we can't overcome it, but there's also an element that I want to bring in here that our culture kind of supports this paradigm of more work. And we have to balance that. No one is going to do that for us. And so how do we do that? And those are some of the things that I want to help you with today. So we're going to do a quick poll. Sarah's going to launch this, and she's going to put up, you should see pretty quickly, a poll that comes up on your screen. And these will be the questions, and I want you to answer them. Now, Sarah, just to be mindful, will it automatically pop up, or do they have to click on the poll icon at the top of the header?
It should be popping up right now, so
and if it's not, you can click on that poll there, and it should show up. Yep, great, Larry. Thanks for checking that, and Chris, thank you too. That always helps when you can't see. Good. So if you'll just answer those questions for yourself, let's just see what the collective has to say. I'm going to give everybody like 30 more seconds, then we'll close it out. Okay, Sarah, let's close that poll out and see if we can bring up the results on that.
Okay, we're working on that. Well, we just had a couple more. Give us just 1 second.
Oh, sure, absolutely. Some of you had to think about those questions.
That's a good thing, though, right?
It's a very good thing. It's like, do I take my annual leave or do I not? And while that's coming up, some of this work-life balancing, and as we go along in the questions I'm asking you, is sort of to get this awareness. And the part of the awareness we want is so that you start identifying, because we're not bad at everything, right, in terms of work-life balance, but there's always a certain few areas that feel missing or a lack of. And those are the areas that we want to get more in. So often when I hear people say, oh, I need more work-life balance in my life, really they're not doing all that bad. It's just they may be missing a piece. And so some of these questions, some of these thoughts that we're going to talk about today is what pieces are missing for you. And Sarah Jolene just checking in.
We're still working on it. Give us just a minute.
You're still working on it. Okay, while you were working on it, I'm going to go to the next slide. You just let me know when you guys have that up.
Okay, we will.
Great. So let's look at this next question. So how do you know when you have work-life balance? What are the visual signs? So that's what I'm looking for. When you know you have it, and maybe for some of you, the holidays can go either way, right? Holidays can be really restful because you're not working, you get some time off, and they can also be very stressful because you have the family there and guests and things going on. But when you feel that you have this nice balance in your life, how do you know? How do you feel? What's going on to you? What are the visual signs for you? I want you to chat in one thing that for you see as a visual sign for yourself when you know you have work-life balance. Marianne, thank you. Yes, rested, right? You just feel rested, like rejuvenated in that way. Melissa? Also rested, and time for self-care. Yes, it's a big one. Sleeping, big one on the rest, isn't it? Like you're sleeping, feeling relaxed, happy, okay? Helen, I'm current with both work and home commitments, right? You feel caught up, right? That sense of being caught up. Less stress, eat and sleep well. Good sleep is a big one in here, isn't it? Able to concentrate, not distracted. Better shape, yeah, all really good ones, and you're hitting it. Those are the visual signs and visual cues that we're looking for as whatever it is defined for you, okay? And so how do we get there? So let's go here. So I'm going to talk about this mode, and then I'm going to talk about some 10 tips of how to help you get here. So this is the first thing that you need to do. Now, we're not going to have time on this webinar for you to do it, but this is the exercise I want you to do once you get off this webinar. Essentially, I want you to make this grid. At the very top of the grid, I want you to put certain areas. Now, these are the most common ones, so you can certainly cheat and use these. Do you have to use all these categories? No. Could you use different categories? Absolutely. It's the categories that you feel that you want more work-life balance in. And so usually the categories are family and friends in terms of spending time, health and physical, meaning working out more, maybe eating better, whatever that is for you, spirituality and faith. For some of you, maybe that's going to church, maybe that's being part of getting into a class, whatever you perceive as spirituality for you. Then personal growth and learning. This is really, I've always wanted to take a pottery class, or I've always wanted to learn how to ski. And so that would be that category. And then the last one is work or career. Sounds sort of strange when you're talking about work-life and balance, but here's the work and career areas is what you want. What are your goals that you want in that area? So let's look at some of the specifics here. So this is the key thing. Within that category, what is it that you specifically want? And this is where we don't want it vague, meaning I'd like to spend more time with your family. I want it specific. What does that mean to spend more time with your family? So in this case, I say dinner with my family 1 to 2 nights a week, right? And now I didn't say every week. I could have said every night, but, kids have soccer and they have music and they have dance class and they have whatever they have. And sometimes there's nights that you or your husband have to work late, or wife. So this is where getting very specific and even quantifying it. Having a date night with your wife every 2 weeks, or husband. Taking your daughter to soccer games. Again, maybe it's not every soccer game, but a little bit. Jolene, I got your chat, and we probably won't go back. Sounds like there was a technical glitch in our poll, you guys, so I won't be able to see it. So as a collective, but that is okay. We will venture on. The next category is health and physical. So this is where, again, specific of what you want. So you can see this first one. Start running every Saturday with a friend. So again, being clear and specific. Taking a break from work and having a proper lunch. Joining a yoga class. Spirituality and faith, I have a 10 spiritual retreat in August. Maybe I know which one I want to do. Maybe I want to read a new book. Personal growth, enroll in one leadership class. Read 2 books in the industry. And then work and career, reduce hourly work week to 50. Now, somebody might say, well, that's high. We'll choose 40. But if you're working 60, 50 is going in the right direction, right? So you may not be able to do it all, but how do you start minimizing it and even quantifying it? Refrain from doing emails on weekends and create 8 hours of office time on my calendar. So the first step that I do when I'm working with people is really figuring out what is it that you want to work in, because unless you figure out what you want to work in today's technology world, something else will get in the way. And so you have to know what you want to get in. So as opposed to often people are just waiting for time to come to them to go do all this work-life balance, it doesn't work that way anymore. You have to know what it is, and we have to work it in your week. And unless we do that, it's not going to happen. But in order for me to work it into your work, into your week, into your schedule, I've got to know specifically what you want to do. What does it mean for you? And so this is the exercise that is really crucial for you to start with, because once you do this, then when I go to my next tips, you can start integrating it in and start working through the challenges and barriers that may come up to that. Larry, thanks for your question. 8 hours of office time a week. So 8 hours of office time, to me, this is really applicable for those of you that are literally in meetings pretty much all week. Some of you could be in executive directors or COOs or in executive positions or even in positions, a lot of the grants managers, you're just in meetings all the time. So you don't get time to sit at your desk to look at email, respond to phone calls, get that one task done. And really, everyone needs at least 8 hours of what I'm going to say office time to check email, return phone calls, get those 1 to 2 things done per week. And unless you allocate that time in your calendar, often it won't get done. So that's when you're coming in early, you're working at night, you're working on weekends. So that's just one of those things to work it in. Yeah? Great, Larry. Thank you. Okay, so step 1, know what you want. And the key things are here, not only know what you want, but I want it specific and I want it quantifiable, just like in these examples. Okay, so let's start with the 10 tips on how to get there. Once you know what you want, these are some tips of how to make it happen that I want to review with you. So the first one, let it go, let it go. Those of you who have kids, right, you're singing in the Frozen little tune right there, but I want you to keep that motto. Here's the problem. You're never going to get it all done. Gone is the world where you're going to get done at the end of the day and everything will be nicely checked off and it'll be done. It's just too much information, too many things to do. It's at a rapid rate. So you're never going to get it all done. And so this is where part of work-life balance is recognizing that we could all work literally 24 hours a day and never get it done. There's just so much happening. And so there's an aspect where we need to let some things go. Some things that are not high value, some things that really you do them, but is it really doing anything for your organization, for your job? We got to let those go. Sometimes it's a wish list, like you would love to meet all these people for networking, but you just can't. We got to say no to those. A lot of articles on the website that you want to read, maybe you just can't get to them. So there's a lot of things that come via email, come to you as requests that you just can't do it all. And this is where we have to let some of those things go. And this is where you want some mindfulness of what brings you joy, what brings you pleasure, what brings value to your work, and start asking those questions before you say yes. So this is the first one. What can you let go? Second one, don't overschedule. It's this anomaly of you see free white space in your calendar and you just fill it, right? And so this is where and I'm going to show you in a minute, we want to use our calendar as a guide. We want our calendar to kind of help us be accountable, especially for those things that you put in there that you want to do with your family or do more in your world. But we also want to be mindful that you don't overschedule. And so getting those breathers and making sure and planning your week that you get some margin time. And I'm going to show you in a minute how to do that. The other thing I want you to create is what I call me time. There's this new realm going in, especially in the leadership realm, about mindfulness. Have any of you heard about this mindfulness and mindfulness studies going on? Essentially, mindfulness is a new practice. They're bringing it into the workplace. Essentially, it is very similar to meditation, but on I'm going to say, a much less informal scale, where it's essentially just centering yourself and just kind of giving yourself some breathing time, whether that's stopping and taking a walk for 15 minutes and just having your own alone time, whether that's stopping and you're just going to eat lunch, whatever you consider me time, and it doesn't have to be long. Some of you, it might be formal like exercise, but it doesn't have to be. It can be short times, but it's really taking a break from, I'm going to say, the noise of the email, the noise of the office, the noise of the requests, the noise of technology. And so getting that time of whatever it is for you to help you get centered and be mindful again is going to help. Because what it does is it puts you at a distance just for a moment of what's going on, gives you another sense of perspective so that you can then move forward in a thoughtful manner. So let's talk about using your calendar as a guide. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen with you to bring up the Outlook calendar. Most of you are on Outlook, I'm assuming. I know some of you might be on a Google Calendar or another productivity software. Same thinking, don't get hooked up on the format, but the thinking behind what I want you to do. So I am going to change it in a moment. We'll pop up Outlook. So you should see Outlook up on your screen. And Jolene or Sarah, just checking in that you see that on your side.
Yes, it is.
Great. So this is just an example of a week schedule, okay? And here's what I'm suggesting you do. This is where you look at your week and go, okay, where do I have time to get office time in? Remember, Larry, we talked about office time? Okay, so I see some email time here that I've plugged in on Monday. I see some time here on Wednesday I've plugged in, but I have a lot of clients this week, so that may not be enough. So I might need one more time here on Thursday to bring that in, okay? Then I see some yoga time, which is great, but I would love to take my daughter to school a couple mornings. And so I can probably do that here. And so I'm just going to put it in. And let's say I want to say, plug it in. Now, with Outlook in particular, when I open this, usually at the very top, see it says show as busy. So this is just something for you to know. This is where you can use it, especially if you're a network. Showing it as busy means other people, if they can see your calendar, have access to your calendar, shows it's not free. You can also choose out of office, which really gives them the feeling that you're not there. Like in this case, that probably might be the best thing. And if you're holding email time or office time and you want to keep it tentative, meaning, you know, if a really important meeting came in, you want to be available, you can also do that there too. So just as a mindfulness there. But what I'm wanting is use your calendar as a guide, and every week what you want to do is kind of look at what's there, where's my office time, what are the things that I wrote down that I want to do, whether that's spending time with your family or getting exercise or eating for lunch, and maybe you say, I want to put in lunch here. Well, great, so let's just add a new meeting here. And let's just say from 12 to 1. You basically want to say, take a walk at lunch. This is where, when you see it on your calendar, it's going to help you be mindful. Now, I can also do it reoccurring. So if I click reoccurring, if you want to do it weekly, you want to do it daily, so you have it on there. That's another trigger. And you can also categorize. If you click on the categories, you could create a category if you want that can show essentially, like in this case, personal time. So I can mark it that color, that category, and when I save it, it's going to show up that color. That also gives you a mindfulness of what you want. So this is where in your calendar they all get full, but how do you start using the time and blocking the time for things that you want to do? Because if it's not in your calendar, more often than not, it's not going to happen. Now the other piece to this is the task list. So some of the things that you saw in the original one, like taking a class or signing up for a class. This is where either you're going to use your calendar as a trigger, or you can use the task list in Outlook or Google, whatever one you have. But essentially adding a new task of, let's say I wanted to take that leadership class in August. So I'm going to say enroll in leadership class for August, but I'm going to schedule this in early July, because I know my calendar gets full, and I want to make sure that not only I enroll, but I get it on my calendar. You might say, KJ, well, my calendar gets full even 2 months before. Well, then plan it in June. This is where use your productivity system as your accountability factor. So once you kind of lay things in, if it's a reoccurring by week or day, get it in your calendar. If it's something that you're going to do at one place in time, then add it in as either as a calendar entry or a task, depending on what you want to do. Okay? Let's go back. I'm going to get out of my share screen here.
You should be all set.
Good. I'm back to the presentation, Jolene?
Yes, you are.
Great, thank you. So my next tip is to get a routine. So the studies that are coming out is the more things that you consider work-life balance, like a lot of you said sleeping, exercising, time with family. This is where the more that you can get that into a habit, meaning it's a certain time, either every day or every week that you do it, and it's at a certain location, the more propensity it is that you will do it. When it's not in a habit, it's harder to work in. So this is where looking at the things that you put on your list of what you want to create in your life, and how do you get a routine with it. So let's just take exercise for some of you. So looking at, well, what kind of exercise do you want to do? Is it yoga? Is it running? Is it walking? Is it hiking? Is it going to the gym? Then I want you to ask yourself, okay, if you, which one you chose, what time frame during the day would be the best for you? Early morning, noon, or after work are usually the general times. So some of you say, well, it might depend on the day, and again, I'm going to say to the best of your ability, if you can pick the same time period, it's going to help you do it. You'll get more in the habit of doing it, and then it will just be your protocol. So let's say it's morning. Well, then this is where, what time in the morning? And so initially, it's going to be a little effort to do it, because it takes about 20 to 30 days to actually make a new habit where you're not even thinking about it. So it's just like right now, the habits that you get in, you wake up, you brush your teeth, you get breakfast ready, whatever you do, you're in the habit of that now. This just needs to start working in your world that that's just what you do too. So it's looking at what are the things that you put on your list of where you want to have specific work-life balance. What are the items that you can get in a routine? And then choosing a date and time for that and getting it in your day. Initially, this is where I use your calendar as your guide until you're in the habit. Once you're in the habit, sometimes then you don't need to put it on your calendar. But until you do, that's what I recommend. So next tip is keeping communications short. So when I say communications, I am meaning everything. Phone calls, emails, meetings, social media, everything that we, in terms of any format, we're communicating with people. Right now, communications take up an enormous amount of your time. And this is where, in order to get some time back, we need to minimize those. We need to shorten those up. And so, for all of you, this contextually will look a little different. So, for some of you with email, let's just go here first, you might be writing emails that are a little bit too long. Shorten them up. Keep them tighter. For those of you who have a lot of meetings, you're probably planning hour meetings because that's just what people do. Do you need an hour? Could it be half hour? Could it be 45 minutes? Even doing 45 minutes, you will often get everything you need to get done, and then you get that 15 minutes. Just checking in, Susan. I still see your screen is on, KJ. Jolene and Sarah, do you see the screen up on tip number 6?
Yes, that's 6, keep communications short.
Great. So Susan, you might just need to do a refresh on your browser to bring your screen up. So sorry about that. So back to communication. So sometimes with meetings, if you want to keep them short, move them back. Can they do a half hour? Can they do 45 minutes? You will often get everything you need to get in doing that, but it starts freeing up some time that way. Social media. For some of you, it's part of your job, right? You need to be in there, and for some of you, it's essentially some, personal time. Whatever it is, keep it short. Minimize it. Start saying, I'm only going to spend 15 minutes on Facebook, look at what I need to, and then get out of there. Because what I'm finding is social media locks you in, and it gets you in, and before you know it, an hour's gone by. 45 minutes have gone by, and you've lost that time. And so this is where I'm finding huge efficiencies in tightening these communications up. There's just so many of them. How do we condense it and get it more brevity to it? So again, this is going to be contextual based on your job and what kind of communications you're doing, but those are just some examples to keep them shorter. Sorry about that, Jolene. It keeps jumping me out of the presentation, but I'm easily able to click into it. Okay. Next tip, simplify it. So one of the barriers I find when I do this exercise with people of getting what you want, they get it in their calendar, they do that, and then what happens is they get busy and things come up and crises ensue, right? And those hot things come through that they didn't count on, which is all true, and they don't have an hour to go to yoga class anymore. So this is where you simplify it or modify it. Can you do something is better than 0 is always what I say. So if you can't do the hour yoga class, well then go take a walk for 30 minutes. Or go for 15 minutes and just do stretching, at home, or go into a conference room and do stretching. So it's looking at what didn't you get in and how can you simplify it or modify it to get in. Maybe you couldn't get to dinner with your family that evening for whatever reason, but you'd still like to spend time with your family. So does it look like that you sit with your kids and maybe do some homework? Does it look like maybe you just sit down and watch TV with your spouse for a little bit just to have some connectedness? Whatever that looks like for you, how do you simplify it or modify it so it's not the full on, but it's a little bit different? The other thing I find is something that's maybe more big that you try to get in. That is another thing to simplify. So let's just say I want to do a big, lengthy leadership retreat in August, and for whatever reason I get to that point and I just can't do that. Can't do a whole week. Well, can I do a class? Can I do an evening presentation? Can I do something else that still is to the topic of leadership? It's still supporting my professional growth. It just may not be the whole kit and caboodle that I wanted. And so that is the other barrier I find is when people can't fit whatever goal they had in completely, they just leave it. And instead of leaving it, simplify it or modify it and get something else in. And what happens is getting something in is better than nothing, and you're going to feel better about it. It's not the whole thing, but at least it's better than nothing, and your mind will wrap around it. So let's go to, my next tip is take a break from technology. And chat in, how many of you during the holidays at least went, I'm going to say 2 days, at least 2 full days without checking email. 2 full days without checking email on your device. Chat in if you were able to do that. Hey, some good ones here. Jessica, that just did not happen. I love it. Okay, and how did it feel? Did it feel good? Did it feel nerve-wracking? How did it feel being offline just with email for 2 days? Did it feel good, or did it feel like, oh my God, I'm missing something? Susan, relaxing, yeah. Marianne, felt great at giving myself permission, yep. So that's what I'm finding. I'm finding in this work-life balance that we need to take a break from technology. And what happens is when we still get bombarded, and mainly it's email because those are all the requests coming in, but social media does this too as well, you just feel this obligation to respond, this sense of obligation to see something or do something. And when you cut yourself off from it, it gives you that sense of some of those things that you guys were talking about, not feeling stressed, that balance, that's not worrying. It helps with that. So I do know for some of you it can be a little feeling like, oh, I don't know what's there. But if it felt good and it felt rejuvenating to you, then this is your trigger to say, okay, how do you work it in now moving forward? And maybe, you know, it's the Saturday or Sunday, or you say from this period to this period, I take a break from technology. What time frame, what days of the week is good to do that? Now, obviously, during the work week day, you need to be engaged, but you can still take a break. And maybe you just say, Sundays is my no email day. I just don't do it. I won't look at it. Maybe for some of you say Saturday, okay, I'll look at it there just to see if anything urgent came through, but Sunday I won't look at it at all. So it's another thing to think about. This technology can be very stressful, even though you're sitting and you're not necessarily doing anything. It's just even looking at it can cause stress. And so be mindful of that and when you want those breaks. Okay, so let's talk about saying no. So part of saying no is looking at, again, and some of these things I talked about at the first slide of letting it go. What are the things that you're saying yes to that you should say no? Going back to some networking things or maybe certain activities you're doing. You know, usually these are requests to do for you to do something that for whatever reason, not a good use of your time. You're feeling obligated to do it, not necessarily part of your job, taking a lot of time, and if you freed up that time, you'd have more time to do these other things. So I want you to think a little bit about what are the things that are in your life right now that you could say no to. I just want you to chat in one of them. For me, you know, I've been on 5 boards, and I had to say no to 2 of them because I just needed to free up some time. So I love those 2 organizations, served great many years, but I had to give them up. So I said no to those for this year. I said no to certain networking things coming through because you just can't do it all. What are some things that you can say no to where it's a sense of obligation that you're doing them and not in the sense of the need or the want? Chant in what comes to mind for you of what to say no to. Not seeing anything come through. Maybe that's a hard one for you to answer. Then I'm going to say if it's not coming to you, I want you to think about it as you move forward because there's lots of things to say no to. Good, Mike, thank you. Alumni board, yep. Volunteer activities, yep. And as much as we love those volunteer activities, some of you might say, I want more volunteer activities in my life. That brings me work-life balance. Great. For some of you, it's giving them up. This is where we're all different. And so I want you to really ponder that. It's not only what you're saying yes to, but if you're saying yes to these things that you want to add into your life, exercise, time with family, getting sleep, then there's got to be things you're saying no to because you can't do it all. And so we've got to recognize what you need to say no to, what's taking your time. Again, not your day-to-day work duties. You can't say no to that. But there are these peripheral things in your world that you can say no to. Okay, my last tip is keep trying. You know, we're starting the year, you're going to get going, you think, okay, I'm going to do this exercise KJ said, I'm going to start using my calendar, I'm going to get it in my work week, and you're going to do really well for a good couple weeks, and then life will happen. People will be asking you to do things, your calendar will get booked again, and you're going to start working in the evenings and weekends. This is normal. It's normal that you kind of get on the train, and then you get off the train, and then you get on the train, and then you get off the train. So what we want is we want triggers to help you be accountable. And so one way to help you be accountable is to have questions that you ask yourself. Now, this is something you can plan in either every week to help you be accountable. Could happen you do it every month. But some sort of moment in accountability that triggers you to stop and go, okay, what does my calendar look like? What are the things that I said I want to do that I want to get in? Where are they going? And start getting them back in again. Because you'll all start getting overbooked. It's just natural. And we want to get you back in there as quickly as possible. So these are the questions that I have for myself. Do you have personal time planned in? Now, personal time, again, is how you want to define it. Me, personal time is just me. It's not anybody else. So I don't consider it necessarily going and meeting friends. I consider that actually KJ time. I'm reading, I'm walking, I'm doing whatever I want to do. Exercise time, desk time, meetings that you can cancel are no longer important. And then again, the focus on the top 2 or 3 priorities that you need to get done. This is basically getting in the mind frame of you can't get it all done. Remember, that was tip number 1. You got to let some things go, but what are the key things that you need to get done? Now, these are KJ's questions that she likes to do. I'm going to encourage you to alter them for you. So you may say, instead of personal time, do I have family time planned in if that's one of your goals? You may say, am I getting enough sleep? Am I going to bed at the time that I need to? Okay, maybe that's the question you need to ask yourself. If it's that, saying no, maybe it's a question to say, have I been saying no this week? What things did I say no to? So whatever questions that are going to help you based on the tips that I just reviewed and some of the things I'm talking about, those are the questions I'm wanting you to have for yourself so that you can keep accountable. I don't usually like to see more than 5 questions that you ask yourself. If it's more than 5, it's going to feel too arduous, and it's one more thing you have to do. We don't want that. But at least 5 questions for you to do a double check in your calendar and look at what you're doing to help you be accountable to this work-life balance moving forward. Okay? So with that, Jolene, I think you were able to get the consolidated poll results up. Were you able to do that?
Yes, we are. Give us. I'm going to turn it over to Sarah and let her pop that
Good.
in real quick.
Sure, let's see. And since we're able to see it, let's see it.
It's uploading right now.
Okay. So as that's uploading, what I want you to, we're going to go to questions here. And based on what I'm saying, what I want you to go to is what's the question in your head of why this won't work for you? Why you can't do this? Or maybe the question in your head is, yeah, you've talked about a KJ, but I'm still not sure where to start. So I want to go to what is the question in your head that you feel is the barrier to moving forward? Like why, what is your mind telling you of why you can't do this?
All right, KJ,
okay.
It just popped up.
It did. It's a little small, but let's see what we have. So the first one, I find myself spending more and more time on work-related projects. Big response there. I feel I don't have time for myself. Okay, that was mixed, a little bit of half and half. I feel stressed most of the time. Okay, high stress level for some of you. I usually don't take all of my annual leave. Very normal. The studies are telling me most Americans don't take all their leave. So that's a very cultural trait there. My outside interests have taken a backseat to my, high one, and I've missed important family events because of my work. Okay, so good. Some of you are not missing. That is on the other side, which is good. So yes, excellent. I'm going to say good. Again, it's the being mindful of what's working and what's not working for you. Okay, let's go to the chat. Let's go to the questions. Sarah, thanks for bringing that up. I am going to go back to here and come back to there. So let's go to some questions here. Marianne, it's too hard to decide what to say no to. I know. So then I'm going to say, Marianne, choose one thing. Choose one thing. Do not choose 10. Do not choose 3. Just choose one. And again, something is better than nothing. And if you're going to add things in, we've got to take away to something. So just choose one. Minimize it for yourself, I guess, Marianne, that's my point. Laura, let's go there. It seems there is nothing I can possibly say no to. Same question, right, Laura? I know. And that's everybody's quandary, but you can. You just feel like you can't. But this is where I want you to have the awareness, and especially in the next 2 weeks, both Marianne and Laura, I want you to just have the awareness of what are you doing. And I want the question in the back of your head of, I had this meeting, but did I really need to be here? Or I said yes to this, but now that I did it, I probably shouldn't have said yes to this. Those are the things that I want awareness of. We are a society that just does. We put it on the calendar, we do, and we go, and we are there because and we're just not being aware of it. So I'm going to really encourage you both. There are things you can say no to. I know it's difficult. Be aware and start with that first. Mike, let's go to your question. Much of my time is spent on people, and it's hard to say no to students with concerns. Yes. So, yes, definitely you've got to write in part of your work students, and they have concerns. And if that's part of your job, great, that's part of your job, but it can't be all of your job either. So there has to be some minimization of it, meaning allocate time for it, maybe allocate, an hour. I'm not sure what time you need for that, but it can't be all of your job either. And so I think there are certain things it's looking at. I don't think it's no necessarily of minimizing it. Where can you point them in the right direction for support, or how they need to move forward on it. Sometimes going to the coaching mode, Mike, of letting them help themselves. So you're not giving them the answers, but helping them help themselves of where they need to go to do it. So it's not all, and I know there's lots of context with it, but definitely ways to minimize that. Chris, let's go to your question. I block my calendar, but if it's my own time or task, I'll drop it. Yep. I know, Chris. Everybody does. Okay? Everybody does. And so I'm still going to encourage you putting it on, okay? And here's where I'm going to go. If you can put it on every day, I suggest it just to hold the time, knowing that you're probably going to give up 2 of those slots, maybe even 3, but at least you still have 2 or 3 slots left in the week. So this is where if you have a habit of doing that, I say put on your office time every day of the week, and then if you give up a couple of those, at least you still have some in there. That's one. The second tip I have is, to the best of your ability, I guess the question is, if you have some administration support, having them help you be accountable for it is great. The next thing is talking to your colleagues about it. And so I also find that we're not having enough communication about this with our colleagues, and we're all in the same boat, meaning everybody's trying to plan meetings, everybody's schedule's packed, and it's hard to get things in. But I'm finding if you have those staff meetings and say, hey, look, we all want to get stuff done. Is there a time of day where we all could say it's office time, email time, that we won't plan meetings as a collective to the best of our ability? That often helps too, because then everyone's doing it, everyone has it, and it can help from an office environment. So that's another tip to kind of help that. Helen, same as Chris, hopefully answered. Oh, same as Chris too, top one challenge. Melissa, let's go to you. While prioritizing life, I don't want it to look like I don't think that work is also priority. Oh yeah, that is definitely a concern, Melissa. Yeah, like you don't want the perception that work is not important. No, that's why I'm saying be specific of what you want, because it's not saying work's not a priority. It's just saying my health is important and I want to go exercise at the gym. So I don't think that message needs to be there. And Melissa, I also believe that everyone is in the same boat as you are, of thinking that, again, our value system in this country is we want to work hard, we want to be perceived that we work hard, and we do as Americans. And so the time you're giving to your organization after hours, based on the studies that I'm seeing, is anywhere from 5 to 10 hours that your work doesn't even, your office doesn't even see that you're working, because you're looking at emails after hours, you're going to networking things after the hours. There's lots of stuff that we do. So I know that's a concern, and the question would be probably what things do you want to plan in that you think specifically might raise flags. So meaning if you don't get into the office until 9 because you want to work out in the morning, but you'll stay till 6, and if you believe that might be a perception issue, then that's when I would just, go talk to your supervisor, talk to your colleagues about it, and see if that would be a perception issue. I'm going to say not all of it will be. It might just be certain things that kind of work into the week that you think might, and then having conversations about that will help. Okay, Larry. Can't put crisis, student, or family in my calendar. No, you cannot. Now, what you can do, Larry, is you can mark it private. So you could put it in there and just mark it private. Larry, are you on Outlook? I'm going to assume you are. Google. Okay. Google has it too. When you go to Google and you go to the new calendar entry, I think it's in the upper right top corner, but there is a way to mark it private. And what private means is you can see the detail, but anybody who can view your calendar cannot. They'll just see it's busy. So I would then, if you want to have that accountability, kind of put those things on your calendar, then just mark them private. Courtney, no email Fridays, help our team catch up. Yes, love that. So you've already implemented that. Love that, Courtney. And I also have something where I call it my catch-up days. I usually plan them, I only plan them once a quarter, but I have some clients who like to plan them every month. And catch-up days is essentially one day, no meetings. All you're dealing with is the past. You're dealing with past email, past tasks. That's all you're doing. You're not dealing with anything forward. You're just dealing with past. And that seems to help people, and you have to kind of do your frequencies with that. Usually Fridays are the best. Usually Fridays before holiday weekends are the best because email volume, new stuff is low. So something else to think about depending on what it is. Jenna, no email Fridays. Essentially probably it means, but I'm going to let Courtney, you clarify. I'm assuming it means that you as an internal group minimize sending out new emails so that you have time to catch up. Yep. Very good. I love it, Courtney. I think that's a great idea. It sounds like it's been working for you. Okay, let's do this. I think I hit all the questions. Sarah, let's unmute people just to see if there's any verbal questions.
All guests have been unmuted.
So everyone's unmuted. Just want to check in to see if anybody else has any verbal questions for me. No, with that, you guys, great questions. Sarah, will you mute everybody again?
All guests have been muted.
Okay, I think I was muted there, you guys, so sorry about that. Couple things. One, on the first page of my handout is my email, and as you're going along, you start doing this and you have a question, please feel free to email. I'm happy to respond to you. Secondly, there's going to be 2 more productivity workshops this month. The next Monday will be email management, where I'm going to really focus on how to manage email, incoming email. Primarily focus in Outlook, however, you Google users, same thinking functionality, and if we have some Google users, I can do a quick showing in Google too. Pretty much same functionality, just a little different. And then we'll skip a week because we have Martin Luther King Day, and then the last Monday of the month, on the 26th, we're going to have a workshop on task management in terms of how to manage tasks, how to use Outlook to manage tasks, how do you get them in and deal with that. So that is what we will deal with on the 26th. And with that, thank you all. I wish you great luck. I really encourage you to do these exercises and do it today if you can, and start getting that in your work week. And with that, Jolene, I'll let you say any final words and talk to you guys next week if you're on there.
I just want to thank everyone for today. We really appreciate it. Hope you have a great rest of your week.